Sentinels versus Dig as one of the loser match ones, which I what?
No, it's just a funny phrasing. The loser match ones.
Oh well, it's 0-1.
It's a matches between losers.
Well, it's Swiss. That's how it works. There's the winners matches and the losers matches.
Yeah,
that's objectively correct.
That's the format. It wasn't Flame.
Yeah, I didn't say it was.
Yeah,
I just started laughing.
Yeah, okay. Losers. Yeah, all right, fair enough. What do you think about this loser match? The loser match for losers.
Hello and welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia, Season 10, Episode number 2. Episode number 1 was a banger. If I, don't say myself, LCS returned and our weekend was also a banger. It was really exciting to have fans back in the studio. You know, people were cheering and signing Pokemon cards, and everybody was popping off. It felt really good.
Yeah, it was super good vibe. They sold all the tickets both days, so the studio was pretty packed, and there was lots of fans here, super excited. And I feel like even just the comments online and stuff, like on Twitter and whatnot, seemed way more positive. People are just excited, I think, to have the LCS brand back and to be done with LTA. So people just seemed really happy. The vibes were good, and it was a lot of fun. They had the whole like MasterCard opening weekend thing, so they had all the team booths. So there was like games and free food and drinks and stuff like that out there, which always is going to be fun too. But I don't know how it felt online, but yeah, the vibes were really, really good in person.
Oh, I mean, it was great online. You know, I was co-streaming with the boys. And yeah, I feel like it has that energy to it where I think years down the road, we're going to look back and be like, you guys remember when you were LTA for a second? It'll feel like, ardent sensor meta or something. It was just like a fever dream. So yeah, it felt really good to have LCS back, and the games were a lot of fun too.
Yeah, it was honestly super, super surprising, a lot of the results. I feel like three out of the 4 matches I would have gotten incorrect with my predictions. The only one I think kind of like went to what at least most people would have thought would have been the LYON one. And then obviously TL-C9 was kind of split in predictions. But like for me, I was favoring TL, was definitely wrong about DSG, was wrong about FlyQuest, which there had been a lot of talk about parity, and I know even some of the pros were saying that they felt like the casters and the analysts and stuff and the community was like underrating how close it is. I know Palafox was saying that on pros. He was talking about how people are not realizing like just how close the league is. And, I think he was saying that like their goal in Dig is like making worlds, and, like a lot of the teams were saying they think they can actually make worlds, even if they were teams that were kind of like power ranked towards the bottom. So I thought it was pretty interesting to have those results, and especially from teams that I think people were thinking we're going to need a lot of time to build, with like a lot of young players, a lot of new players and stuff. It's kind of surprising.
I mean, I think because we only have 8 teams and 3 teams make worlds, that I feel like you should have a positive view of your team at least that much. Like that seems like pretty good odds to get a spot, to get a shot. Even like we were saying in episode number 1. Griffin, before FlyQuest had even played, before FlyQuest had been having good scrim results even, by the way, he was like, yeah, I really like that we have low expectations for this, split for Lock-In tournament. But by the time Worlds, rocks around, they felt like even with a new team and all young players, like, yeah, we could grab a spot. So I think that every team should be like, yeah, we could grab one of those spots. 3 spots, 8 teams.
Before their hopes get beaten down.
Yeah. Right? That's what I was going to say. Because I think
the odds thing is like, like numbers wise, it's not that bad, but like there's different players on each team, which does change the math.
But also, everyone always talks about, well, if you don't think you can win, then, you're just going to have a loser's attitude, and you're just going to lose it, and it's going to be self-fulfilling prophecy. So, like,
they still got that hope.
This isn't even like every team is like, we're going to be number 1. We're going to win. They're like, we're going to get one of those top 3 world spots at least, Maybe like TL or Cloud9 probably be number 1, but like we'll still be in there with them too.
Yeah, I mean, it's early in the year, right? These teams some of them haven't even really scrimmed very much with their rosters. I know like
a lot of them haven't.
Yeah, a lot of their visa issues or whatever, had their players just like pulling in from the airport directly to stage.
Yeah.
I mean, probably not literally, but close to that. And I think the beginning of the year is super fun because the meta is not really defined. A lot of the time in these early season games, people will be like misprioing draft, right? Like they'll early pick something that turns out to be a huge bait pick, or like the OP champion will just go through for free and never be countered or whatever. So I do think the beginning of the year is always super interesting as far as like it feels really close because everything's so new and undiscovered, and you know it's kind of a honeymoon phase for a lot of the teams. They haven't had enough time to lose trust in each other yet.
Just give them some time. They'll hate each other in a couple weeks.
You know, they haven't
League of Legends player.
Yeah, I mean,
The game just started. You haven't given me enough time to lose faith in Kobe's ability to gank for my.
Yeah, just wait. My hate will grow.
Yeah.
yeah.
just
I mean,
need to see
it's
him
an
pass
actual
the
thing
ball
that
a
can
couple
happen,
too
right?
many
It's
times.
like you have that confidence, right? It's like because you know, as you win with a team, you gain more confidence. But if you just keep losing as a team,
Yeah.
you know, as much
It's
as everyone
true,
says,
yeah.
like, you know, winner's mentality, you got to believe you can win the whole thing. It's like, man, if I'm there for every scrim day and every stage match and we are perma losing, it's like at some point it just becomes delusion, right? It's just, you know, people are usually based in reality. So it can happen. But I do like how interesting the standings have been because, yeah, I didn't predict like half these results. I thought the games went way different than I thought it would be. You know, some teams didn't show up the way we'd hoped, and some teams like FlyQuest, for instance, they surprised the shit out of me. I like I said last week, I didn't think they were going to be very good. I was like, you know, these are a lot of young players. They don't have like Whippo and Inspired anymore, who, you know, a lot of people say they carried them, and whether or not you want to believe that, they at least led them. So, yeah, I think they did great for what we were expecting.
I definitely agree. It felt like, especially Masu, who you know, got interview time and went on the podcast, the pros podcast afterwards and stuff. You know, he was. I felt like he was talking a lot more, you know, and being like really open, and felt like the vibes were good. And you know, even when he was talking about like being roommates with Griffin, and then like Cryogen is like upstairs and Gatkos is upstairs, and then he's like, Masu's only 21. And he's like, these young kids, they just have so much energy, and they're just and you're like, yeah, you know, he's one of the old ones at 21,
at 21
on the team, but also, you know, because he's more of a like reserved personality. I just like, I found it a funny, like, you know, he even like painted a picture and like gave me a visual when they were talking about like, yeah, you know, I've got Griffin next to me playing arena at midnight or whatever, and he's like screaming and like hitting the ceiling and yelling at Gatkos and stuff. And I was like, man, it just feels like a super like high energy young like gamer house vibes, which, you know, brings
Good
me
times.
Yeah,
Good times.
it brings me back to like the beginning of LCS or even before. You know, a lot of people had experiences of like you know, playing with their friends either at each other's houses or like college dorms and that type of stuff. And that's to me the vibes that FlyQuest give off. And then they also played well and won. So I think it's like FlyQuest stocks were plummeting with their high expectations last year Worlds and not making, not fulfilling those basically. And like losing Inspired and Busio and everything. But I feel like they like almost instantly after one day just skyrocketed back up, and everyone's like, yep, I'm a FlyQuest fan. Griffin's great. You know, this whole squad, they're so lovable. And I saw a lot of comments of people, oh, it's nice to see, you know, Masu without, you know, someone telling him what to do every like 2 seconds of every game, because he was popping off as well. So there's so many exciting things about this this roster. I do want to talk about Volibear, but I've been talking a while, so you can go.
Did you see the Quad interview as well? It was kind of funny. He was talking about like about Griffin and like how he's just asking him about girls all the time, and like, do you like long hair? Do you like short hair? Do you like this? And the interview was like, oh, have you talked more about the game or girls? He's like, probably he's asking more about girls than the game. And it's like, so it is definitely that like funny, you know, Zuber interview or energy rather. Yeah, they all seem like they're having a really good time. I said last week, even before the game started, this is the roster I was most excited for, but I thought it was going to take a long time for them to get to like, a level where they were really competitive. Even their team, when I was talking to them before, were like, yeah, it's going to be a while. Like, don't expect anything from us in the first split. We have a lot of things to learn. But I felt like they showed us exactly what you would want to see from a super young team, which is like really good mechanics, a lot of aggression. Like, they were super confident. They're just like constantly going for fights and stuff. And, yeah, they went for some fights they shouldn't have, like that Volbar game. Speaking of that, like when they're diving between the tier 1 and the tier 2 top and all die for it, right? Like they're chasing down, I can't remember who it was, but Volbear Q expires and everyone collapses.
It was Gnar.
Okay, yeah, they all die and whatever. It's like, but these are things that you can learn with more experience, right?
Yeah, exactly. That I'm glad you brought up that play because I was watching that one with Doublelift and we had a really similar conversation about that because it was one of those things that. The biggest takeaway for me was their reactions after the play happened, right? I think on a lot of teams, people would, feel really embarrassed for trying that or like shut down or just like start tilting or going quiet or whatever. But like Griffin was laughing, just like, oh, my bad. Because the thing is, when you watch the play, obviously the result was super grief. But you could see the thought process for it. It was like, okay, we are like zoning Gnar off the turret. We know we're getting collapsed on, but basically it was like, I'm making the read that Gnar is too far up. He's illegally positioned. We can punish him for this. And obviously he misjudged a little bit. I'm curious because I saw in that game, he went W max on Volibear, like full W max, which is really good at fighting. And it's a huge spike once it's maxed. But you are so slow. Like I almost always do the Q max on Volley just because without it, like you saw in the game, you're just like trudging along, like you can't catch anybody. Like he's so slow.
I like the 3 points Q and then W max. Sometimes you can switch it up.
Yeah, exactly. And so I wonder if maybe he was used to having a little more points in Q because he was so slow. And then goes for the ult, doesn't get it. But everyone followed up, and obviously they all died, right? It's like if you go for a fast play, it doesn't work, and then you get collapsed on, like it's going to end horribly. So yeah, I like that they were just able to laugh it off, be like, yeah, my bad. Went for it, wasn't good. And I think that's, the sign of a confident team, right? It's like, yeah, maybe the safe play is, hey, they're collapsing, let's back up and not take any risks. But at the same time, it's good to test the limits, be like, okay, because if you do get that kill on Gnar, then all of a sudden the people collapsing are in danger, like they have to run away. Yeah. So it was cool to see.
Yeah, and also like you can kind of feel what they're feeling when they're playing. Like when Griffin does the, oh my God, I gotta chase this guy that just went into the Baron pit, and he like ults in and then flashes back over. I gotta kill the other guy too. And it's just like, you kind of feel the bloodlust. It was hype. It also just made me laugh because I remember you said that ThinkCard told you that he thinks that Griffin can be like the next Inspired. Yeah. And I was like, that is so not inspired type of play where he's just like, I'm going for this kill. Oh, that guy's almost dead. I'm going for this one. Like we're freaking out basically. Yeah. And I was like, I get where you think I was like, yeah, like this guy's going to be really good. Yeah. He's definitely going to be really good in a different way.
Different player, yeah.
in a different way. But I knew that Griffin had been one of the few players that did jungle Volibear even before Dusk and Dawn existed. And so I had hopes that he was going to bring it out because you knew that this item, or as it turns out, we already have information on the next patch, this item and champion combination are going to get nerfed, and you knew there was going to be like an expiration date on how OP this thing is.
So they listed I don't think we have info as far as like what the exact changes are yet. It was like the list of what's going to be changed, and they did classify Dusk and Dawn as a adjustment. So it's not a strict nerf. Yeah, they said they want to make it more like defense oriented rather than damage.
Yeah, I thought it was higher health.
He said he's gonna take AP out and put it into health.
So I actually don't think that's gonna be that bad for Volibear. I would prefer more health on that thing because when I play him, I feel like the only way I ever lose games is in that if your early mid game goes bad because you get one shot, it's going to be a bad game.
They're directly nerfing Volibear.
Okay, yeah.
They're directly nerfing it.
They are doing that too. But I'm not as worried about the item changes. But yeah, we'll see.
Well, the item changes. They said that they want it to be this this basically you have to build item on the champions that build it. And they didn't actually list Volibear in the list for Froxon's tweet. He listed, Echo and Diana and Varus and stuff. But they literally said, yeah, we and Freak also made his own video about it where they want this item to be the buy item for champions that it is good for. I guess you can debate that philosophy if you think that is healthy to have like a core item that you feel like you always have to buy on a champion. To me, I really like having
diversity,
very good build diversity. I personally previously would sometimes go AD Volibear and sometimes go AP Volibear, Cosmic Drive, or Trinity Force options, and I did really like that, and it felt good to like go either way. But Dusk and Dawn crowds out both those options. Yeah. It is just strictly better for AP, and it's also strictly better as a Sheen item than Trinity Force. So like, there's not really a reason to go the AD builds anymore. And then it overrides Cosmic Drive as the AP build also. So whether or not you want to like debate that philosophy of having a core item, for a champion that you have to be balanced around. I mean, it is like what people refer to when they say Riot Special of introducing an item that you rely on and then nerfing the champion. If in the future they then nerf this item, like you got to get compensation buffs for all. You have to go back for all those champions that were previously balanced around it, or else people get mad and they're going to reference all the times that it has happened before, which is like, whether you want or not you want to debate that philosophy, there are a lot of champions in League of Legends that do have core items that they revolve around. So it's like it's something that already exists.
That's what I was gonna say. Is that it's like I feel like I saw some responses to those kind of messages where people were like really negative, like you can't like make it required to build an item. I'm like, have you seen Rise?
It is like that.
Like Roa tier, how many games? 100%. No way.
Wait, there was a game where someone bought their tier late.
Okay, well, I literally I literally just looked on Games of Legends, 161 games, 100% presence for Archangels and Rogue.
Yeah, do you remember this last Worlds though? It was like there were massive Reddit threads.
Oh, that was it was Zeka.
Yeah,
he forgot.
Yeah, he forgot.
Yeah,
the one time where he didn't have it early is like he forgot, and then he still bought it later. Even
he still bought it.
I remember he bought an Amp Tome at one point after his fraud. I was like, dude, he's just not going tier. Like, why would you ever buy an Amp Tome instead of your tier there?
Just forgot. And it's like Wukong, Triforce. In pro play at the very least, pretty much 100%, right? Probably even in solo queue. Yeah. There's like Jinx, Infinity Edge, it's like you're building it whether you like it or not. Like there's a lot of characters that are like that, like Nami, Mandate, like there's many characters that are like, this is what you build every single time. Your character is balanced around it, whether you like it or not.
But there are also a lot of characters and one of the reasons that drew me to Volibear initially was that there's a lot of builds for him, and like he have multiple scaling vectors. So personally, I really like there are a lot of champions in League that have multiple scaling vectors. Everyone mentions Kai'Sa. Oh my God, you can build anything on this champion. Varus has multiple super good builds as well.
Oh, that champion is so disgusting right now.
It's super disgusting right now. That champion's also going to get nerfed. But like those types of champions, I prefer those, even though both exist. And so I feel like I can still be sad that Volibear is going from one of these camps into the other camp, even though both of these types of things already existed. I just, I always liked that Volibear had all these different ways that you could build them. You could literally go any build, like pure tank, AP, or AD, and you depending on the scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I will say to give sort of the other side is I don't know if you've seen. There's a high elo Europe Volibear player named Highbridge, and he actually made a video like kind of right before Dusk and Dawn started getting really popular, where he was saying he was doing like this Iceborne into Bandle Pipes. Granted, pre-nerf Bandle Pipes, but it still did show that you're able to do other builds. I think maybe if with him getting nerfed, you'll like have to do the Dusk and Dawn a little bit more because like it is much higher win rate percentage wise. But I think you could still probably do other things as well.
Yeah,
even if it's maybe not quite as good.
Yeah, you always can. It's just that's the whole point. Is that it's making them worse compared to the God item.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the
Yeah. Well, hopefully, they'll find a good way to balance it because I agree. The game, it is more fun when you have the options. So let's talk more specifically. Obviously, we were talking already about FlyQuest, but they played against Shopify. That series, was a very surprising one for them, and each game was pretty different. Game one was this game where they got really far behind. It looked like it was going to be, pretty dominant for Shopify. I think it was like that scuttle contest where Contracts got 6 and like he won the smite, right? And then was able to kill Griffin off that with the ult and everything. It looked like the early game was super good. You're feeling like they're gonna run away with it. Zinni, I think, even was the one who got the first blood, so the Azir got really accelerated. Their bot lane was kind of getting blasted. I felt like both games, to be honest, by Masu and Cryogen, but like it seemed like it was gonna be Shopify's game for sure. But Shopify looked more like the kind of team that's not on the same page, to be honest, even though they only changed the one player, which was kind of weird. And I thought Contracts had a really rough game, especially when, I had talked to their coach and they were like saying that this was their big focus, was making sure that, when Contracts is going for engages and when they're looking for these fights, that they're really thinking through, okay, how is the fight going to look? Is this something that we should be going for? Not just playing purely off instinct. And that was all I could think of when they had that Malphite ult over by Baron, where he does this 3-man Malphite ult, but all his team is like 2 screens away. No one's there to follow up, right? And just like you ult in, and then it just felt like that was kind of the moment the game really fell apart. And it felt like after that, they never really kind of got back on the same page.
How did you guys feel about Zinni's performance?
I didn't think he played very well.
Yeah. So Pobelter and Doublelift were like insane. Like they were glazing him so hard while we were watching. And I wasn't that impressed by him. I thought his build game one was super vulnerable, and it kind of prevented him from being able to like have an impact in these fights. He went for this just like full glass cannon Azir, Nashers, Shadow Flame, Sork boots, and I think it's obviously you want to do damage, but Azir's a champion who does a lot of damage regardless. But when you're up against like Orianna Wukong, you don't want to be, if they can threaten to one-shot you with an Oriole all the time, that's not very good, right?
Yeah.
It makes it so you either have to position way too far back, like out of range of anything, or you're just getting one-shot. And I think a lot of fights, he didn't really get to do a whole lot.
Yeah. I just felt like he died way too much, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
I felt like he was playing really aggro. I don't know if he was trying to if he felt pressure to make big plays or what was going on, but it just felt like he was positioning so aggressively in a lot of the fights and kind of getting blasted as a result, especially with the advantage he had. Like early on in that game, Quad was just chain dying. Like Quad was like 0-5, like Omega behind. And it didn't feel like Zinni was able to really do anything with that lead. Obviously, it's not like a one-player game type thing, but it did. I wasn't that impressed in the Azir game. I felt like it was not like the best start, but it's not really that big of a deal to me because it's just his first tier 1 game, right?
Yeah, I mean, I could see why when I had talked to the other players, they tried to like cool down on the hype, and they were like, they emphasized, oh yeah, he's still young, he's gonna grow and improve. And I was like, okay, so I guess we're seeing whatever was going on in scrims, / like leading up to this was going on, because yeah, it definitely needs something, some cleaning up there. I think like the worrying thing to me is for Shopify was more the coordination of the team later into the game, because they started these games out. Well, especially the first game with the Azir and with the Malphite, it started out picture perfect.
Yeah.
It's like successful gank after successful gank. Like, the Orianna like just can't do anything, can't live. It's like getting Bard ulted and Malphite ulted like on cooldown, and like how do you play versus Azir, Bard, and Malphite ults just constantly, but. Then once they got towards mid game, like Griffin kept on doing counter ganks on other sides. Like they would be like, okay, fine, Shopify, they made a play bottom side, or they made a play towards mid or something. But then Wukong would always get some gold somewhere. He was gonna make a play top side, get a kill up there, get some turret plates up there, and so he kept on building up his economy anyway, even with. Some of the early frustrations of the Shopify like Malphite ults and Azir and stuff like that. And so I was like, wow, shows resilience for the super young team, and then the lack of coordination on the Shopify team was kind of the shocker. And I felt like it was almost a bit of a theme for our first day, or our first weekend, where a lot of these, like, some of the expected things happening were kind of reversed.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of, like, revenge story arcs. DSG got a lot of their players stolen, by Sentinels, and then they just beat them down. And then, like, APA gets, replaced basically. And then he's, like, probably the biggest factor in several of these game-winning team fights for Cloud9 in getting revenge on Team Liquid. And so it was almost like a weekend of revenge or, like, redemption stories for a lot of teams and players and stuff.
It definitely made me more worried though for Shopify, just because it's like the team that only changed one, like, person, versus, like, a bunch of, like, teenagers who are, like, fresh to tier 1 and a much bigger change on their roster. It's like that's one you would really expect to win. And even the final fight, it was like Seos ulted quad, like he Bard ulted quad, and then it wasn't even like a same time thing. Contracts just, like, ulted straight into the Bard ult. And then, like, the game was over. I don't know that they really could have won from that spot, but it was just like they looked like they were struggling with their communication on a lot of these plays, which is just not what you expect with a team that has been playing together for a while. Zinni obviously excluded from that. He changed, but still, it's like the core of the roster was there, so that was concerning. And then you're like, well, all right, let's see how they bounce back in game 2 because they were winning early. Like, maybe they can just get right back on the horse again. And then game 2. They just got kind of smacked. Like, dude, Masu and Crygen were slapping their bot lane.
That bot lane was unreal. That when I saw that, I feel like there was some stat on broadcast. I think it was like Thresh hadn't been played since like 2022.
2022. Yeah.
Yeah. So first time in 4 years that Thresh has been pulled out, and it's brought out by a rookie. And, I'm not a bot lane expert, but I would think Aphelios Thresh I don't think they should be winning against Corki Nico, especially. This is a matchup where I feel like the only way the Aphelios Thresh side wins is if you're just way better than your opponents, right? If it's like the match we had with Lion versus Dig, where it's Berserker against a last-minute sub-bot lane, then it might look like this. But, these are rookie players going up against, I think, B-Boy Seos, pretty solid laners, right? Like, they're not really known for getting gapped like that. But oh my god, that was just such an unreal bot gap. Like, somehow Corki Nico couldn't even get the push level 1, despite being able to just, like, throw your AoE spells at the wave. And I don't know how that happened. Maybe they just, like, got spaced super hard or something. And then they were getting 2v2 killed under their turret. If you're picking Nico and getting destroyed in lane by Thresh, like, that is going to be a tough game.
Yeah, I mean, Masu was setting up some of these plays. Like, when they double killed them, it was like he sniper gun Qs, roots into the hook, and I guess Seos must have used his clone earlier on a trade or something, because he didn't have clone when he got hooked by the Thresh out of the Gravitum route. Which I was kind of confused by, because I had thought partially the Nico is considered so good in the Thresh because you can just block it with your clone. Like, every time they're going for a hook, like, a lot of time you can just clone it, right? But anyway, so he set him up with that, and then they get that kill, and then he hits another sniper gun Q on a B-boy and, like, sneaks it through and roots him with Gravitum too, and then he gets hooked and they get double killed, and he's, like, chasing him under the tower and killing him, and you're just like, oh my god, like, that is not good.
Yeah, they when they were asking for, like, player of the game votes, I remember after this one, they were like, "Oh, so you guys gonna vote for Thresh?" And I was like, this is one of those situations where usually, people are like, "Oh, the supports don't get enough credit. They're setting up their AD carries." I'm like, the AD carry is setting up the support here. Like, Masu was...
Every hook was out of route.
Masu was insane. Like, it was actually... And the Jhin game, I thought, was also really, really good from him, too.
Smurfing.
So, I just thought, Masu was playing out of his mind. FlyQuest definitely got a lot of fans, I feel like.
The move speed stuff, by the way, was so funny in both games. Like, in game 1 with Jhin, when they got Cloud Soul and he built Stormrazor, when he would get a crit, he had like 700 move speed. Yeah. And then game 2, he rushed Swifty's Stormrazor playing Fleet Ghost on Aphelios. It was just like, he is just moving. This guy is fast as hell. It looked really strong too, because especially with Thresh, because it's like Zin or whoever goes in, and you just get like flayed off him, and then this guy's just running 7,000 miles an hour, dancing around you.
Yeah, the Storm Razor coming back was definitely a fun thing for Aphelios. I feel like mobility is one of the few things that Aphelios lacks. He has a lot of other stuff, and so it kind of like shores up that weakness.
Yeah, I mean, he does infinite damage. I think they even nerfed his lethality scaling this season coming into it.
So, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. He's one of those champions that I think even in one of those late game fights, I think it was the last fight of the game, he had chakrams and he flashed 2-shot rise. Like actually 2 autos killed him from full. I was watching that and being like, wow, that AD carry looking weak this season.
Yeah.
My lord. But yeah, I think thinking on that fight, it was a really weird one to watch. It kind of showed the lack of coordination, I think, for Shopify, because that fight kind of started by Fudge just sort of, or I think Shopify was hitting Baron. They procced the Meganar on Baron and then turned off, and then Fudge was just sort of like walking at the Miss Mininar and died. He just like jumped late and got separated from his team and died. So it was a weird game from Shopify. Not really what you'd expect from one of the teams that had been together longest. Because I was expecting them to be good, but then again, last season they were just one of the least consistent teams of all time.
Yeah.
Right. It was like on any given week they could look like the best or the worst team. Just no rhyme or reason, just how they were feeling on the day. So. Yeah, maybe this was just a bad one for them.
Yep. Well, we'll see. We had TL versus C9 as well, which was what our kickoff match was. That was super, super exciting. That was honestly a really fun series. It was kind of honestly similar to the FlyQuest Shopify one in that like game 1 was really close and then game 2 kind of became a stomp. I thought TL had game 1 wrapped up. Yeah. Like I thought it was completely wrapped up. It felt like they had kind of hit a point with their scaling where they were gonna win. The Nidalee Renekton didn't really feel like it had gotten much done. Blabber was doing kind of this like poke style build, with Echoes of Helia and Ludens, where you Q poke, you heal, whatever. But like Jose and Quid were looking really on point in these early fights with like
the shockwave engages were over and over so good. The flash shockwave.
The Q3 for Zin is prepped, and then he just like flashed instant knockups into shockwave at the same time, and like Blabber was just getting killed over and over by Quid in the jungle and Jose in the jungle.
Blabber's second death, where he just got solo killed by Orianna, was so crazy.
Yeah,
I remember
phase rush chasing down.
Yeah, I mean, because I think we were like coming off of a replay or something, and they didn't show how he died initially.
Yeah,
we just saw we came back and he was dead, and I was like, how? And then it showed the replay, and it was just like
still like what the
Orianna just killed him, and it's like how like I don't know. Even watching it was weird. It's just like it looked so easy, but I'm thinking like it's Nidalee in the jungle, right? It's like she's not that easy to catch, but somehow he just died.
That's like almost exactly what I said when it was happening, and then we saw it. It's like wow, with like because he times like the speed burst for his phase rush, and then goes over the speed burst for his W, and like I'm like, well, Nidalee usually feels like she can do that type of stuff, because she can just hop away from most people, but. Quid definitely was on one there, but then everything just turned around. That was like you're saying it was a similar feeling. Honestly, I feel like it was more one because TL really had like everything, objectives and kills, and it just felt like they were running it. But then the scaling for Cloud9, they still relied on that was the Sivir Azir game, right?
Yeah.
I thought they did a really good job of playing their like battle lines in the key team fights. There's like multiple fights by Dragon and one on the top side of the map, and we actually have a visual for the final fight.
Boom.
We're doing a little test here.
We're doing one visual. Calm down.
One visual. All the other plays, not quite yet, but we got one for you. If you want to take a look.
You want to keep your imagination strong. You can imagine the rest of them.
If you want to take a look at the Cloud9 Team Liquid, Team Fight. We're gonna throw it up on screen as well if you are watching on YouTube or anything like that. But I thought this one, they played the battle lines really, really nicely because they had put so much effort into scaling their Azir Sivir, which is amazing late game combos. Like those are the carries that you want if you're playing versus Sion. You know, those are some of the carries that can actually kill Scions and get through them. And they were able to farm up their Lord Doms and everything. And so Thanatos does this play where in the super late game, after carries like that already have, magic penetration and armor penetration and stuff, like you don't really tank things by actually taking the damage. You need like CC the enemy carries. And so Thanatos flashes in on top of LYON to stun him with the long empowered stun and gets the barrier. And then he like double dashes away with Renekton and Slice and Dices and like creates a lot of time. Meanwhile, Sivir and Azir are just auto attacking this Sion, and the Sion's like, I gotta walk away. And so then it gives you like another opportunity to re-engage, and then APA, after both front lines have had like their separate engages, Jose tries to go in while Morgan is running away. So like there was less coordination on TL's side. Jose did this like, he tried to flash in again, and then he instantly ults, and then he's like, oh no, like I can't tank for very long either. And then Morgan was walking away, so they were like desynced on their front line. And then APA was like, all right, well, that's the opening then. You guys have nothing left.
You're right. I was going to say, watching this game, it seemed so awkward for both sides to actually try to start a fight because there were some engage tools, right? You have like Bard ult, you have Scion ult, whatever, but it was, you have this poke Nidalee build with Ludens and Echoes of Helia, where the idea is you want to just be able to like throw spears and poke them down, but the spears weren't really landing, and they had Nami to heal it up as well. On top of just like a tank
and the
silence
Bard stuff
shielding.
this game was missing every Bard ult too.
Yeah, it was.
And Q's too.
Yeah.
It was not Keria on Bard in these games this weekend. Yeah, the Bard priority versus
speaking a lot of English in this game.
Yeah, it was a little weird seeing the priority on Bard was so high, but like the actual game impact of him was not quite lined up with the priority. But
Vulcan normally is a nasty Bard, to be fair.
Yeah, and he did kind of set up that last fight. But I will say, I think from C9's perspective, these fights are super awkward to do because you don't really want to overcommit or you'll just die. And it's sort of the same for both sides. So in that clip we have, I thought it was really impressive that the way C9 actually played this fight, it kind of reminds me of the Genji style team fighting, which is always cool to watch, where it doesn't feel like it's really easy to predict how they're going to do it or even coordinate it, right? It's not like before the fight they're able to say like, okay, this is how we're going to do the fight. It's kind of just everyone's doing their own thing and creating space while not going into suicide, right? So it was like Vulcan started out the fight by, I think he like was just queuing Orianna, and then he was able to ult him, and it wasn't like they were going to have some massive follow-up with that. It was just they're all kind of doing a little bit, and then like you mentioned, Thanatos flashed in, and his intention wasn't I'm going to flash in and one-shot someone. It was like he's just making space. He's going to flash in, and he knows if he stays in, he's going to immediately die. So he instantly has to double dash out. But it was like they used enough stuff there, and they drew enough attention to give APA that opening to go for the flash ult. So I thought that kind of team fight was impressive to me because that kind of thing is extremely hard to pull off.
Yeah.
You don't have very much CC on your team. Your jungle mid AD carry have no CC at all. You have a Renekton stun in a Bard.
And it was late game. Renekton was looking useless this game. I felt like he got his I don't know what it was, 15 CS or plus or minus a bit. I can't remember exactly. Advantage over the Scion, but he couldn't. They never ganked Scion. They never killed Scion. And then he did Shojin second. He did Cleaver Shojin instead of going Sterix. So then he would show up to the fights, and he all he could do was flash in stun and then run away.
Yeah,
I remember they had that this fight where he set up on a flank by Dragon, and he was in the banana bush above the red buff. And it's like he pops Dominus, and you're like, all right, here he goes. And he just stood in the bush for so long until Dominus expired, and then he flashes in stun, and then slice and dice out. It's like that was his fights. Like he just looked like he couldn't do anything. So I thought it was so impressive how they played out that fight, because to me, yes, there was mistakes on TL, but this fight was way more outplay than misplay. I was really, really impressed by how C9 was actually able to find a way to win in a fight like that. I thought that was really, really sick. Even with that team fight win, though, I thought TL still had a really good chance in this game. and then they completely lost their minds. The next one was complete outplay, nothing from C9 forcing this. They barred
misplay. You mean for the second one? The next
yes. Excuse me. Yeah, complete misplay. Like it wasn't like a forced error. It was
no,
just
TL were trolling.
TL were completely trolling. Yeah. Like they Bard ult into their jungle, or not Bard ult, Bard tunnel into the jungle.
Core JJ sees it. He walks away for a second, and then he walks back up to it.
And then they full engage, and Quid is like on the other side of the map, and you're playing like a full beefy frontline team, right? You don't have a ton of threats where you can just skirmish. Like you need your Ori and your Corki, or you do nothing. And it just felt like they were doing so well the whole game. One fight went bad where they got kind of outplayed by C9 in the river, and then they just completely lost their minds. Took this fight, and the game instantly ended. And you were just like, "What just happened?"
It felt like the dragon fight was like, oh man, they just got like punched in the head, and then they were like super dizzy afterwards, and they were like, what is going on?
Concussion. Yeah.
Everyone was like, oh, what? We're still playing this game? Like, did we just? And then
not for long.
It was crazy. They were just all gave all these free kills. And you're just like, well, I guess it was over. I thought like the tension was building and it was going to be like this epic battle now. Cloud9 had just like fought their way back. It had been this whole game of TL winning. And then now the Azir and the Sivir have scaled and they're using like their damage and their range really well to get these like little leads. And then it's just like, all right, I guess Azir's all dead. Everyone just kind of walked up into there, one by one. And they go, okay, I guess we're over then.
Never mind.
Hope that the next game's better.
Yeah, I mean, that just seems like a result of pressure, right? Like you always talk about pressure in games, and it was a tough game because it was, like 40 minutes or something, almost 35 minutes of these very drawn-out standoffs. Where
and you're winning it for 90%.
Yeah, you're winning it.
Instantly lose.
Right, and one thing goes wrong, and all of a sudden you start feeling like, oh man, like we can't just do this standoff. We're going to lose it eventually, so now we just got to go for something, and then that's when those desperate plays come out, and the stuff that when you watch it, it's like, oh, that wasn't very good. That was a huge throw. So I was impressed by C9's ability to pilot this, sometimes it's a meme when you say there's a hard to play comp, which to me, usually in my head, I'm like, okay, so that's just a bad draft if there's a hard to play comp. But I think this was actually just a difficult to play comp because there's not like any clear... it's the win con isn't super clear on how you want to do it, right? It's not like, okay, we group and we poke them, or we split and we get picks, or we just team fight walk them. It's kind of like you gotta finesse it a little bit. So I thought that was super cool. And then obviously game 2, C9 had a lot more playmaking options.
Easy go buttons.
Yeah, and so something that kind of stuck out to me with this one is that Team Liquid replaced Impact with Morgan, and they had these like hype videos for him being like, yeah, like he's the guy. He's dominating everyone in scrims. He's just the best top laner ever. And then they didn't enable him in any way, shape, or form with drafting, right? It was like, granted, it can happen sometimes, but it's like this new pickup you have who's supposed to be this insane laner. You put him on Sion into Renekton in Italy, which is like, good luck there. And then the next game, they blind picked Rumble, and he has to lane it up against Aurora.
He did really well in both lanes, I thought.
I mean, yeah, I'm not even saying he did badly, but I'm just saying I think he's being
play to him.
They're putting him in a situation where it's like, if he does well, he's not feeding.
Yeah.
Versus being in a situation where it's like, if he does well, he can hard carry the game.
No, I agree with that part completely, but I still walk away from this thinking, wow, like he's a really good laner. Because Thanatos has been by far the best laning top laner in the league. He counterpicked his Rumble with the Aurora. They went even in lane. Like, I'm not saying Thanatos maybe didn't have more pressure, but like their CS was like dead even in lane in that second game. And I was like, damn, that's actually really impressive because that matchup is very hard. And Thanatos is a monster laner. And game 1, yeah, he did go down some CS, but like, again, it was like 12, 15. I can't remember exactly. Maybe it got a little bit higher than that, but it was in that benchmark, never died. And then you hit that point where he's just a brick wall. So I was really impressed by his laning, but I do fully agree they never did actually play to him at all. And you like, sometimes you get counterpicked and you're like, damn, I'm playing this so well. I'm dead even. All right, how's everyone else doing? You hit tab and the game is over. And that's what this one felt like.
Dude, the mid lane situation was rough. I don't remember. In pro, it's very rare to see someone actually just getting blasted in lane, but that was mid. It was Talia versus Yone, and Quid was just bleeding far. It was like every single wave he was losing half of his health. He was having to like home guard max his way back to lane, and he could not play the game. I think
I felt like a lot of it came off of that roam though from
it was
because he got the kill, he got the blue buff. Based had enough gold for Lost Chapter, and Quid had like no buy. And
yeah,
so,
exactly.
Like, that was where it was like, all right, now you actually can't breathe.
Yeah, and part of that too was because Quid did the team play where as APA's moving to that bot play,
You follow.
yeah, he followed. And if it's a really hard decision to make because obviously in hindsight, if Quid just stayed mid, pushed the next wave, based earlier, he probably could have been okay. But it was like he abandoned the wave, followed Quid, and then got nothing. And I think he got like chunked out or something and just ended up in a terrible spot. Like the wave was bad, APA got a kill in blue, and it was just really, really rough.
Yeah, I think one of the big things for me was spamming the new season, especially with and playing a lot of lanes instead of jungle. Is you have to be so discerning on what plays you actually follow because you lose quest progress if you leave your lane. Like you lose the bonus. And a lot of your quest progress comes from just being in lane and the passive getting boosted by being in lane. And so there's a lot of times where if the enemy has a little lead and they're going to make a play, I think now in this season more than ever, it's more correct to stay your lane, push, and try and get a quick turret play or turret hit even, both because you can get instant rewards, crystals, and it's really easy to take the first one, but also because you're going to lose quest progress, and the person who leaves first and goes to a good play actually will make up more quest progress because they're getting kills, takedowns give a bunch, or they're like getting dragon or something, epic monsters give a bunch as well. But if you also follow them and you don't get those takedowns or epic monsters, then you are going to be super behind in your quest in addition to already losing out on the play. And I feel like it snowballs this season even more heavily than it previously did. So, I think this season is like there's so much more focus, at least for me, on laning phase and like making those decisions where it's like junglers have always memed about, and not even memed, but like since the very beginning of like season 1 and stuff, it's like never gank a losing lane. And it's like, okay, well maybe like tiny times, like sometimes, but like you don't want to go to losing plays basically a lot of the time. I think laners will just have to be more cognizant of when they leave or don't.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it just created such an extreme advantage. It's really like usually losing hard in pro play is like, you're getting pushed in a lot. You're down a bit of CS, right? But yeah, he was down early, like what, 30 or 40 CS?
Also, credit to APA, he landed so many combos.
Yep.
Like he was getting seismic shove after seismic shove, and it's on a Yone too. And so he was just chunking him over and over.
And I felt Blabber played really well this game on the Jarvan. Like he got ahead early, and I felt like he was just making play after play after play. This was to me one of those games where you see kind of Blabber at his best, right? Where I feel like he is someone who can snowball games in a way that a lot of junglers cannot, where he gets that advantage and he's able to push it really, really effectively. So this was definitely an impressive game from C9 for sure.
Yeah, I really loved we got to listen to some sounds of the game afterwards, and there was that bot lane fight where APA had this comm that really stuck with me, which I thought was super good, where he was basically just like, yeah, like I'm going in no matter what, basically, because I think that is such a good confidence call from the team because it's not telling other people what to do. There's no hesitation. It's basically just rallying your whole team, and that's the kind of comm that really reminds me of High in the early C9 days, which was something that I remember when I first subbed for them, he kind of calmed like that. It wasn't necessarily like he was forcing everyone, like he wasn't commanding other people. He was just like, yeah, like F this, I'm going in. And it was like, follow him or lose the game, basically. And it was usually good situations. And so APA kind of brought that same energy where it was like, yeah, I'm going in no matter what. So then you're not sitting there thinking, is this a good play? Or, I'm being forced to do this thing. You're just like, okay, like that's our leader. Like he's going, we're gonna follow him. And so that to me was a really good sign for them. And I think like that kind of confidence boosting call is super, super important.
It switches the teammates thinking from now they don't have to consider, oh, are we doing this play or not, to how am I going to follow up on this play? And so you're already thinking about, all right, what am I going to do in this scenario, instead of wasting any mental energy on, are we even going to do it? I'm really glad we got that listed in, because we got to highlight it. And he's like, oh, I see an angle. I'm going no matter what. And you're just like, oh, hell yeah. It's like, it's good.
Yeah. A really good contrast to that, I think, was a different listen we had from the DSG game, which, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it was the play where Darkwings had that comeback play on Azir. I think Rahel had just gotten caught in a really bizarre way. And then Darkwings had a superhero Azir play to get them back in the game. It was like a 4v5, and he got like a really good flash ult. And then we heard the comms from that play, and it was a mess. It was like, I think Darkwing's comms while he was doing the play was like, it was just complete indecision. Other people, I couldn't tell who was talking, but they were saying like, don't go for anything. Like multiple people were talking, saying multiple things. And it was just like actually a mess of comms. So I think comparing the two, because like Darkwing's obviously made a hero play to save the game, but like it didn't sound like that from the list at all.
Yeah, well, we can talk a bit about that series. Disguised was able to beat Sentinels 2-1. This one was so interesting. It did go all three. I think it was our only series that went all three. Yeah, yep. It was. And Sentinels won game one, but it was interesting because like even in that game, I felt like, I don't know, at least mechanically and whatnot, DSG was looking better. And I came into this, especially after having talked to Ido, where he's like, yeah, like the whole roster is basically built around Kryra. Like that's the whole intention of this thing. And then they don't have Kryra. I'm like, all right, you're going to get cooked, right? Like you're going to get cooked for sure. Hambach came out game one, got like giga lead over Kisno, was almost like flamerizing him, it felt like at one point. Massive gold lead on the Kiana. It felt like it should be, kind of a stompy game, but even this one became pretty close. And even in times where I felt like there was bad choices on the fight that they took, I was really impressed by how Sajed was playing things out mechanically. Like, even if they shouldn't have been there, or even if they shouldn't have, done it, like every single time there's like a flash engage on him, he has Zonia'd it, like, instantaneously Zonia'd it or flashed it or whatever. Like his reactions and his mechanics, I thought were really fast, really good, which was fun to see and quite impressive. And yeah, that game, first game, they did end up winning. It was that kind of hero play you're talking about from Darkwings, the Azir shuffle that he finds in the jungle. But it was a wild ride, shall we say?
Oh yeah, that was not a clean game, but it was a fun game. That was sweet. That was just, they were playing on fumes by the end there. It was just you couldn't predict what was going to happen, right? I think it was, Disguise got the soul, and I feel like usually when a team gets Cloud Soul, it's kind of GG. That thing is so insanely strong. But I guess they didn't really have great champions for Cloud Soul, right? It's like TLAW Pantheon kind of get zero value out of it because they're just in an animation for the whole move speed bonus. But I think Hambach had a really good engage on Kiana. Sorry, I forgot her name. Yeah, he had a good Kiana engage where even though DSG had a good response, it was like I think two of them Zonia'd the like flash Kiana ult in their base. It was still enough to kind of like get the fight going. So it was a cool game overall. I think a lot of people showed good moves, and we also saw some really sketchy stuff as well. Like the play that I mentioned before where Rahel got caught and died, if Darkwings didn't find that Azir play, I think the game just ends right there. And it was so weird too. This was, I don't know how late into the game, like 30, 40 minutes at least, and he just got caught as Corki by himself top lane, like so far out. Not only did he not have vision, but like the other team was in his jungle. Like that is such a weird thing to do. You almost never see that in pro play where someone is that wildly out of position to, because usually if there's even a chance someone can be somewhere, you won't go there, right? But it's like not only was there a chance there they could be there, they are there. So like that was just a really weird one to see.
Yeah, it's almost like one of those like brain off farming resets where you're like talking to your team and you just like naturally like go back,
move down the lane.
Yeah, you just naturally go out to the main and you're like farming while you're like paying attention to something else. You're like calming or like It seemed like one of those kind of resets. But I agree with you as far as like the tension and how cool this game was, because I thought Sajed was actually going to carry the whole game for a while there. The Kaisa, like his Kaisa was so fed. He was full max items really early on.
I think it was 34 minutes.
Yeah, he had full build Kaisa.
7 items.
And I'm like, I have so many nightmare games of playing against, all these like Void Seekers just constantly going down, and like one of your teammates gets hit and you're like, oh, you gave him the refund on it, he's gonna hit, and then boom, another one goes down. Like people are just getting headshot left and right. But then it did feel like he was like the only one that was fed on the team, and that became a problem. There was one moment I remember at the inhibitor tower in mid lane.
Oh, okay.
In mid lane. And they were actually doing like decently in the fight, but it was a moment where you could tell like they hadn't played together at all. Obviously, Kizno is an emergency, sub and stuff. But there was a small moment in the fight where Kizno had an angle to flash stun the Azir. Kaisa was out of auto attack range, though. He was like a little bit back. When he sees that Pantheon go in and do that and stun the Azir, he starts to walk up to follow up. But there's no time then, because the Azir then, like, the stun wore off and the Azir gets to kill him. And he's all the damage. But like, if they had done it at the exact same time, that would have been like a super sick play, and like maybe they could have popped the Azir. Like, I don't know, it's full build Kaisa. Like, you get plasma from the stun, and then he instantly pops him. So that was like a like do or die moment, where it's like either the Azir dies or the Kaisa dies, and because like you have never played together before, or like didn't have the exact right timing.
There was definitely a few moments in game one where I thought DSG should have won, but they were kind of like lacking patience, like skipping steps because they were getting a bit excited. Bot lane in Hib, they like went forward, and I remember they like got a kill under the tower, and then they were like, kind of all backing off, and Kizno just like ults in under the tower as everyone was kind of like running away, and then he just like insta-dies basically. Everyone tries to run back up and save him, and they die. Top lane, after they killed Rahel, they kind of like, it was a great play from Darkwings, but they also could have just checked the bush with Nico Clone, and they just like all walked together blind into the jungle and then got engaged on and died. Like that, if they had just played a little bit slowly, they probably could have closed out the game. So there were definitely some oopsies there, but I did think Sajid was looking really, really impressive. The next couple games, they did win. Like, they were able to actually take it, and I just feel like there's like it was really, really fun to watch, but you could see a couple different moments where it, like, the inexperience was kind of shining through. I remember there was this fight, I think it was game 2 for Sajed, where he was sitting on like 2K or maybe even a bit more than 2K. And he hadn't based in a really long time. Sentinels based, reset, come out, and they kind of like force this fight. And Sajed was trying to, I think, greed for like a full item purchase or something. And they have this fight where it was like, I can't remember if it was game 2 or game 3. I think it was game 2 though, where there's people with like all have like 1 or 2 autos of health left, right? And it's like, if he had just based it at the same time and spent his gold, like, you just wipe them probably for sure, right? And it's like, you're like, okay, in a year, he probably doesn't make that mistake, or maybe in a couple months, he probably doesn't make that mistake, because mechanically, again, he's just playing these fights so well.
That is one of the biggest things, I think, for pro play, that it's very hard to tell as a viewer, and you'll never get to learn it in solo queue, but like, it's the whole idea of tempo and resetting and buying when it makes sense to do it, rather than like when you have exactly the perfect gold, right? Because I guarantee there was times where he could have recalled before that and been able to like come out in the map. And the most important part is just spending all your gold so you're as strong as can be. Like, obviously item spikes matter, and there are some exceptions where you can greed a little bit to get this spike, but for the most part, it's like you just want to be recalling when it makes sense, so you can be pressuring with your team. And maybe he, didn't quite do that, and like you said, was just missing the items that he should have had from an earlier recall. So, I mean, absolutely understandable thing to do when you're just starting out, because, you only really learn that through experience. And I thought he played great, though, for just how young he is and inexperienced.
Yeah, I feel like the whole weekend just made me really happy for the competitiveness of our league. And this like series was no different. I was really happy to see a lot of these like positive takeaways, even if there are some instances of, oh, there's no coordination here, or there's like, oh, obviously they can clean that up. I felt like there were so many positives in some of these teams where I didn't expect there to be as many impressive moments. So I think overall it bodes really well, especially because so many of our teams didn't get a lot of time to play together.
Got some young NA talent in there.
Got some young NA talent, and they're doing well. And Keysno playing well made me so happy because I was like, oh man, I like seen him on some Challenger streams before, and he's always been really impressive. And like Po Belter's shouting him out, or whatever random thing, and I was like, that's cool. I mean, it's emergency sub, but like maybe it works out. Yep. And some positive stuff.
All right, well, we're gonna go to a quick break, and we'll be right back after this to talk about LYON versus Dig, and then quickly next week's matchups.
When we set out to build the next generation Telluride, we challenged everything, pushed harder, went farther, much, much farther. Because that's how you take great to greater. The all-new Telluride Turbo Hybrid.
Kia, movement that inspires.
Welcome back to The Dive, driven by Kia. It's time to talk LYON versus Dig. A lot of hype around LYON, a lot of anger I saw online from the fans, from them maybe not getting power ranked as high as some people were expecting. But this was one I thought was going to be a super stomp. This was like a series that I was really confident in. For LCS Fantasy, I was picking up some LYON players. I was like, this is going to be some easy points. It's Dig, who I thought was going to be a bottom team with a full bot lane sub situation going on, emergency sub, obviously going to be really, really difficult.
Oh, it showed.
It definitely did in game one.
Rough. I mean, even game two in the beginning, like that was not a playable lane whatsoever.
Yeah, 100%. Both games, it was just like, oh my goodness, Berserker and Isles are literally Shaq and Kobe out here. Just the monster dunking on them from minute one. Like this was the game, right, where they they walked up into the side lane brush before minions are even there.
Yeah.
And they put the ward down. And then Berserker and Isles like sweep the ward and they walk up. And then they're still there in the brush, like waiting as they're sweeping the ward.
Yeah.
And then Bard's able to get a Q onto both of them. They get barrier out and like a 200 health lead before minions are even there. And I was like, we better hit that emergency button because Berserker and Isles are about to do some nasty things. And they ended up doing that. I liked how Isles on the pros podcast afterwards, he was like, yeah, I felt like I was God this game. I could do whatever I want. Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah, this might sound like a lot of self-confidence, but I feel like I made like almost no mistakes in that game.
I mean, I can see why you'd feel that way.
Yeah.
It kind of looked like that from the bot lane perspective. And man, I just felt so bad for XU. I'm just imagining, because I guess for the whole team, like, what do you do when if this is exactly
you go next? Everyone
exactly what it's like to be on a top team versus a bottom team. For Inspired, obviously, I think Inspired actually played really well this series, and that's just what you expect from him, right? It's like,
especially game two, he was insane.
Oh yeah, I mean, just MVP material, just doing his job, doesn't even need to do anything super flashy, just like business as usual for him. But like, then you're XU, and every time you press tab, your bot lane is getting worse and worse. I think it was showing. Both games, Berserker has like a 2K plus gold lead real early, like super early, to the point where I don't even think you can gank the lane. It's like, if you're up against Inspired, the guy who's just this machine of efficiency, so as soon as you start skipping camps, going for random ganks, like you're getting counter ganked, you're getting counter jungled, something bad is happening elsewhere on the map. Yeah, that looked really unplayable for XU.
I will say too, game number one, I definitely feel that, because everyone's like, all right, well, this one's kind of over. Let's start thinking about the next game, whatever. But then game two actually, LYON started doing like some big throws and ego plays, like Saint Realm. Okay, there's a winning play for LYON. They get the early, like almost free kill onto Breezy, who's playing Nautilus. And then Saint Realm warps into the entire enemy team, into Dignitas, and just completely gives up his life for free and like kind of ints there. And there were a lot of moments where I was like, Saint like was making some head scratching plays. And he was dying a lot.
Berserker
and,
too. Didn't he flash under the tower?
Well, he did that one. He also did the one where he just went straight up and tried to like 1v2 mobility, and I forget whoever was behind him or whatever, and just tried to like Aphelios crit him and just try and go for the full Zed. And
I'm not gonna
like,
lie. I thought Lion was gonna throw this one. It looked like
Inspired
kind of
saved them.
Yeah, their carries were throwing it.
Apparently, from what I was hearing from Doubleth and Pobelta on this one, Saint is a known griefer in solo queue. Like, if he's not having a good game, does not matter the game state, this guy will just try to lose the game because he's unhappy. And it felt like he was doing this on stage, actually. It felt like he was mentally checked out as soon as his game wasn't going great. And then also, Berserker, he had that play you mentioned where, like, obviously his lane phase was insane. They were just dominating lane. And then some of their plays started going bad. Mobility was picking up some kills with Jinx ults and whatnot. And it kind of looked like it was going Dig's way. It seemed like kind of some people are expecting Lion to be this mental boom team because like they have all these big stars and strong personalities and whatnot. But God, Inspired is just too clean. Like, this guy actually played situations so well, right? It was like he had a smite steal on the soul right after Berserker had the like kind of wild play where he had no flash and he just like walked up into 4 people and died. That was one of those plays where it's like, there's no way he thought that was a good play. Like, I don't know what that was. But then Inspired just like kept finding good plays. It was just insane.
I was just so impressed by how he was just finding Photon, because Photon was so strong this game, and he was definitely strong side. They put Dokla down. Photon was in this point where it felt like, okay, he's giga strong. Like you said, mobility started getting kills. Palafox is doing all right. Like, felt like they kind of had them outranged in a lot of these fights where, all right, it's a Rylai's phase rush ghost on Talia. And you have all of these like melee champs, and like Ryze is kind of short range too. It feels like really hard if you don't nail your engage and one shot them, then you're just kind of screwed, right? You just get kited out, and mobility's just like max range with rocket form killing you. And then Inspired just kept finding Photon on flanks and just like soloing him or forcing him to ult or flash or whatever, and just solo won the game. I thought they had lost this game, and that is kind of crazy with this like monster advantage that they had. And you needed MVP level Inspired coming out here and just saying, nope, we're not going to lose. I'm just going to like solo win it for us. I'm going to find Photon over and over and over. So I thought it was a super impressive game for him, but definitely was a little bit worrying for Lion from their position. Even game 1, even though they did close it out and stuff, Baron got stolen, then Elder got stolen, and like you started thinking for a second, wait a second, like could this start getting a little bit close, getting a little bit weird? But Inspired definitely like put his foot down in game 2 and was just like, nope, we're not losing.
That's why I was like, all right, we're already seeing Lion, you got what you paid for. That right there, that is why you buy the MVP of 2 regions, who was MVP of North and South since we were merged last year. And you kind of get this feeling, maybe it's even easier with hindsight, but do you remember the very beginning of that game? Because Inspired made before he had to carry this whole team and solo win the game, he did this invade into cross back to his red side, and he blind cues over the Krug
I was so
wall,
tilted for XU.
and he gets the last hit on the big Krug with a blind Q coming back to defend his own side. So
that made no sense.
This is, you talk about like jungle masterclass and stuff like that. It's like, you're not like, I drew up the play, I timed it exactly, the DPS of Vi, the thought process and path that XU is going to take to start my Krugs at this time, and then I queue over this wall. No, like he set everything up without a lot of help from the laners even to counter jungle on the red quadrant, and they come back, blind queue and defend his own Krugs as well, and it's just like, ooh, I'm getting that feeling. Inspired's gonna do some crazy stuff this game.
Even like prior, if I recall it correctly, so he went for the invade and then XUCs. So then he crosses over to try to do enemy red. But Inspired, I think, anticipates that he's gonna take his red, so he only does 2 camps instead of the full 3. Because XU
actually doesn't go for red. He goes immediately for Krugs.
Maybe I'm misremembering. I'd have to watch it back.
He-
but like
I
I
think he
almost
wanted-
I almost guaranteed he went into the red thing and then saw him
'Cause
crossing
in-
back
in-
and then went down because
And
he saw he was coming back.
Inspired shows before like he.
Because they had him warded
starts it.
on by Raptors, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
Let's see if I
XU
can
went
pull it
around
up.
the ward. XU did
No,
go around the ward.
Inspired got warded coming back, and I thought that's why he didn't start red. He went instead to
yeah.
Krugs,
So
yeah.
XU, I think he realized he wouldn't have time to do red, and so he wanted to do Krugs first, or because.
Yeah, because they
from jungle perspective, in that kind of situation, it is really awkward. But I think he did a good job of like, he did his blue and then snuck around the vision. I think he probably Vi queued over the dragon wall to get into the jungle, and then you kind of have like a decision tree to make because if you go for the red, you're doing it without smite and you don't exactly know what's going to happen there because I think they bot prio, so he's going for Krugs, which is way less expected. I'm not like. I don't think he got seen on the minion wave. That's something that can happen when you go to enemy Krugs, like when the minions are walking by.
No, XU doesn't get seen. Inspired is the one that's seen. XU, in my opinion, makes the correct play. You should go for enemy Krugs.
Yeah.
Krugs here because you're seeing Inspired counter jungle you, and so your red quadrant is countered, and you can't move up there because you don't have laners that are going to help you. And so
it was just this point right here where he was going in the red thing, so he keeps going down. Once he sees him,
that's just how you path the.
Yeah, I was just thinking that he was gonna start red, but then saw him on the Raptor. Because he gets seen in the ward at the same time. That's just what I remember thinking from the game, and I was like, well, that was just smart either way because he had it timed out well. That it's like if he's starting on his own side, I do these two camps, I will get there. If he does do my red, like Inspired's mind, he's gonna be there in time to contest the red.
Yeah, that's the plan the whole time. It's the counter jungle and then defend your
of course
red side.
Yeah, I'm just saying like even before the you can say the Krug steal was like lucky, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But like even without that, he had it planned out really well. That's all my point was.
Yep. That kind of invade is super rough. It's one of those things where when you're playing the really weak junglers at like level 1 and 2, and then you're up against someone strong, like Vi versus Pantheon. Vi can't do anything to Pantheon level 1. Like he can just walk into your Raptors and start it in your face, and you can attempt to steal it from him, but like good luck, his Q hits for like 200 or something. So you can get bullied very hard. And I think Inspired did a really good job of doing this. But that Krug steal was just mean. I don't know. If I'm XU,
it's so tilting.
If I'm XU, I'm just like, what? Why would he even look for that? Like, why would he queue that? He probably felt extremely robbed from that. And like, the league gods just didn't want him winning this game for that to happen. That was just absolutely tragic.
It's definitely funny. Like it's one of those things like, do you think like obviously it's like hindsight is 2020 and you would never expect that he's going to blind queue over the wall and steal that, but do you think he should have been kiting the Krugs down in towards the bush?
because you know that Inspired is coming back to defend.
Exactly. So it's like you could make the argument. I was kind of thinking that too because he did see him cross through mid. He saw him on the ward on their own Raptors. So if he had kited the Krugs down because he did like a tapped Q. So he only got it because he's literally touching the wall.
Yeah, I mean you could. There's trade-offs for everything.
Yeah.
Like you could kite it down to avoid the blind Panth Q. If you do that, you're also closer to the bot lane if they want to like come over and try to harass you. So it's tough.
It's super tilting.
Tough.
I'm not saying like, oh, what a dummy, but you know what I mean. But
yeah, I mean, it would have avoided the blind Q steal if he did pull it down.
It's one of those things where sometimes in jungle, it's like you're like, well, they shouldn't be here, right? So people early smite or whatever, and they get smite stolen and things like that. It's just
No, I mean it's always best to kite where you're gonna go next anyway.
Yeah.
My only guess would be that he was deciding where he was gonna go next afterwards, depending on how the bot lane like fight was going. I don't remember like who was winning push on bottom lane.
Lion,
I have a theory.
Lion had push.
I have a theory.
Lion had,
it was Berserker Isles Gate.
Yeah.
So they were definitely pummeling. So he was probably thinking, how do I get out of here afterwards?
Yeah, because it's really hard because when you see Pantheon in your red, it's like you have to decide. Pantheon doesn't necessarily have to do what he did, right? He could also just take your whole red side jungle. Yeah.
He's thinking, all right, how am I going to get out of here? I think I'm going to have to go over this wall, then over that wall, and
yeah. So I mean, Inspired has all the choices there. XU has very few, and none of them are really good. So just a hard early game to play. Absolutely. Something I was wondering in this series is So I don't know if Mobility has a champion pool for it, but I almost feel like they would have been better off bot lane just picking some kind of really hard to punish safe bot lane, because they were picking like scaling 80 carries with melee support, which it's good if you're not just losing the game from lane alone, right? It's like getting your entire turret taken and down infinite CS. So I'm wondering, like, you could pull out some Ziggs bot, pull out some kind of like
Ezreal
mage.
or something, maybe?
I don't like Ezreal right now. I think
He has no mage games played competitively.
Yeah, so maybe they don't play
and
it.
He's
but,
a 0% win rate on Ezreal.
Okay, so not too not too good of an option.
Not that many games played, to be fair, but
yeah. But I was thinking,
Jhin Varus are his most played.
Yeah. If there was an option for maybe something that's a little bit more lane neutralizing, it could have been good, because I think just putting them in these like not necessarily strong laning champs with a melee support up against one of the better bot lanes, like Berserker's insane laner.
Yeah.
This is the only game we've seen of them, so we don't know how they compare to like LYON Core or like the C9 bot lane or whatnot, or Masu. But obviously really strong bot lane. So I was thinking maybe if they had that in their arsenal, that could have been a better option. But obviously, if you don't play it, you don't play it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I thought it was cool that LYON already are like showing what people kind of hypothesized about this team, where they're like, man, they got some really good players, but there could be some egos, or maybe like, how are they going to work together behind the scenes? And it's like, wow, we got some really big individual stomps at different points. And then we also got some like head scratcher, like what are they doing type plays where, not everybody is working together. It's not necessarily the most cohesive team, but in the end, they had massive star power, like Berserker Alice turbo stomps lane multiple times, Inspired solo carries a game for good measure. I'm the MVP type stuff. And it's just like, this is going to be really fun to watch LYON games, because they have star power and everybody loves to like watch and speculate and like, give me some team comm listening, and is there going to be any drama? Is there going to, what type of games are they going to deliver? Because I feel like, they're going to have some really big plays. You can have some big stomps and stuff.
Well,
and everyone's going to be waiting for
we're going to get to find out how good they're going to be, because they're going up against C9 this week, which is going to be really exciting. And if I was a LYON fan, they did 2-0. You're happy about that, but I still would feel pretty nervous, because this was Dignitas with a full sub bot lane, and I felt like they should have lost game 2 if it wasn't for like this heroic performance from Inspired. So I would be feeling a little bit nervous, but they haven't had a ton of time to practice. Berserker kind of just arrived and stuff. Isles was saying on pros that he basically came like straight from the airport and started scrimming, and he's grinding really hard. But they are going to be going up against C9. We've got some banger draws last week and this week. I think this is going to be really exciting, and it's going to be one of those big ones. I mean, if LYON can win immediately, I have to be like, okay, egg on my face. Like, maybe they are going to be a lot better, a lot faster. I think a lot of people were thinking they're going to have slow starts, could be kind of proven wrong. And C9 has a chance to move on.
That's the thing about being a little bit nervous. Nervousness and excitement come from the same chemical in your brain, and so you can just be super excited that you have a chance to prove yourself versus Cloud9, and then you do get to say, I told you so, and everything that you've ever said is correct after that. If you're able to beat Cloud9.
Yeah, I think LYON, I wasn't really worried about them having a slow start. I think the bigger concern is a crash and burn, right? I think they're going to burn bright, but it's about like how long can they keep that up. I do think if it starts going bad, it might get really bad really fast. But I could totally be wrong. Maybe they surpass everyone's expectations and they just gel together super well. We're gonna have to see. I think they are good right now, and I mean it's gonna be Blabber versus Inspired. That's always a really good matchup in jungle. I think they're both just super good junglers. Blabber, known for being like a little bit more aggressive, unpredictable, sometimes like suicides for crabs and throws games in creative ways, but also like he'll just have some insane 1v9, like just completely strangle the other team, and they couldn't do anything games. And then Inspired, I feel like is a lot more just stable, right? It's you don't often see Inspired do something that's like extremely surprising, as far as like being really flashy, but he almost never has bad games.
Yeah, and he does things that are like very necessary at the time. Like, oh, I make my guardian angel and I go mark this cannon, and like he can only be this place or this place or this place, and like finds him with a sweeper, or then stands on the blast cone so he can't get away. And
his team fighting is also just so good to me.
All these things are just impressive. Also, this matchup is super fun because it's Berserker versus Cloud9 and Sven. And Berserker and Sven were extremely close when they were on Cloud9. And we even had interviews with Berserker where he's like, yeah, I'm not playing with any other support. Like they were very, very close as a bottom lane. And now Sven gets to be back in AD carry position. And going head to head is going to be really, really fun. As far as resurfacing old arguments. I told you so. This is what you should do. This if you're AD carry here or whatever. So I'm super excited for the bot lane matchup, especially.
Who do you give the edge to in that bot lane matchup?
Ooh,
that's
man. A tough one. Oh man, like just lane phase.
Yeah, like
fighting.
Which bot lane do you think is going to win the lane?
How can you not say Lion after how? I mean, I guess it was against the Dig sub lane, emergency sub lane, but but damn, they just looked so good.
They really did. And Berserker was on two like very Berserker champions.
It's
Yunar
crit
and
season.
Ophelio,
There's a lot of really good scaling team fighters.
It looks pretty good, but Sven. When we were talking about the bot lane play, when Sven was playing Varus and Jan was the Jhin, he starts out that whole like winning sequence by dodging the Jhin W, and then he has a confidence where he charges up Q, flashes forward to go for the execute, it gets the barrier out, and that allows the follow up. And so I thought Sven, even though we didn't mention him as much as Blabber and APA, was playing really well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I memean, he was quietly having a really good Varus game. I remember getting to the point where it was like each Q that was hitting the Jhin would do like 30-40% of their HP, and it's like when it hits that point in the game, it is tough. But no, I think it's going to be really, really exciting. I mean, Thanatos, you definitely have to expect to have the advantage in top lane. I think for sure. I think Inspired for sure you have to expect it. If we're just talking pure 1v1, he should have the advantage. Mid lane will be really interesting because I think Saint people look at it as like the more talented individual, but I feel like APA had a really good series. Coming off of the first week against Quid, I thought he definitely outperformed Quid pretty heavily. So that's kind of like maybe more up in the air, and then I think bot lane could be kind of more an argument too. I do think that Cloud9 should have better team play based on what we've seen, but you could obviously make the argument that like Lion just weren't taking it serious, they're playing down on their opponent, whatever. And for this one, obviously you're going to be as locked in as you can get.
Yeah, and kind of an interesting thing in solo queue lately is a lot of these players have been playing a ton of solo queue, and I've actually been seeing Blabber and APA duo, and APA has been spamming Sion mid. So, I mean, he's playing like Sion and Swain mid and stuff like that. So I wonder if like that's something they're preparing against Lion, because maybe they just want something stable.
A little do and be action.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And then also in top lane, I feel like the top lane meta right now is super weird, where there's been a lot of posts on like Reddit and whatnot about range tops. And last week, Dokla actually had a super rough game against Photon. Their Renekton versus Kennen. Like he was down.
Ignite Kennen, combat sums are OP.
Exactly, right? It's combat some top laners, especially the ranged ones like Varus and whatnot. And I've been seeing Dokla and a lot of top laners playing stuff like Barrier Varus top and Vayne and Kennen and whatnot. So I think we might see some spicy top lane picks, since the Renektons lately in Pro have not been looking very good. And Renekton's kind of like that guy you pick when you don't know, like when you just need a blind for top.
Yeah.
But if he's super punishable by these like crazy range tops, then maybe you don't want to do that. And we could see some like spicy counter picks, like range tops, maybe someone counter picks with Irelia, something like that. So who knows?
That'd be pretty hype. All right, I'm favoring C9, but I think it should be a really, really good series. We also have Sentinels versus Dig as one of the loser match ones, which I what?
No, it's just a funny phrasing of the loser match ones.
Oh well, it's a 0-1.
It's a matches between losers.
Well,
yeah.
it's Swiss. That's how it works. There's the winners matches and the losers matches.
Yeah.
That's
Objectively correct.
That's the format. It wasn't Flame.
Yeah, I didn't say it was.
Yeah.
I just started laughing.
Yeah, okay.
losers.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. What do you think about this loser match? The loser match for losers.
Honestly, like I said, I still like saw a decent amount of positives even from the teams that did lose in week number 1. So I'm still excited for some of the
So you admit it, they lost.
some of the openings for these losers, because guess what? One of them
Has
is
to
not going to
win.
be a loser any longer.
They can discard the shame.
Yeah.
I think I would have to expect these loser matches to be kind of one-sided. I would expect Sentinels to have a pretty big edge over Dignitas, as well as Liquid having an edge over Shopify, based on just what we saw week 1 and kind of what we expect from the teams. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Sentinels look great, to be honest. I thought they would look better, but I definitely do still think as long as Dignitas, like, I don't know what's the visa situation for this week. I haven't actually heard anything about that. I think if they do not have to play their bot lane, like this full sub bot lane, I think it should be a lot closer, because I think that their like intended bot lane is supposed to be like a point of strength, right? So to me, that is going to make a pretty big difference, but it does feel like an important one for Sentinels to win.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like we're already getting to important victories here, because like if you go down 0-2 at the very beginning, it's going to be really hard to dig your way back out in this lock-in tournament. Lock-in's not that long.
No, it's quick.
So, it feels like this week of practice is going to be super important, especially considering that not a lot of teams even, got full weeks of practice before the first
There's
weekend.
only one more round of Swiss after this,
Yeah.
because it is like a modified format, right?
Because we only have 18.
We only have 8 teams, right? So there's round 3, and then there's the like last chance or whatever thing, like, which is I think 6 versus 7 to get into playoffs would make sense.
Yeah.
So playoffs is top 6. So yeah, you really are kind of like in a lot of trouble here if you go down 0-2 already.
Yeah. But I agree with Medios as far as the like theoretical should win, or who I would predict right now would be Sentinels and Team Liquid to get their victories and try and like get their paths back up to the top to re-challenge for rematches.
Team Liquid, I feel like you kind of have to expect them to slam, right? Like I think that they still should be a really, really good team. They did lose against Cloud9, but like I still have faith that they are going to be one of the best teams, if not the best team. So I do think that is a really tough matchup for Shopify, who it's a really tough draw, to be honest. Like that's the doom draw. That's always the scary thing in Swiss, is when you have this like banger round 1 matchup, nobody wants to play the loser.
Yeah, whether it was going to be Cloud9 or Team Liquid, nobody wanted to draw that. So and Shopify, as I said, kind of definitely looking like they don't have the coordination in their mid and late game like fixed up and where they want it to be. So
In their defense, though, they're historically a very inconsistent team, so they could look way better next
So
week.
it doesn't mean anything.
true.
Yeah. Because I mean, they showed promise, right? Like they had
Yeah.
some good early games and whatnot, and sometimes it only takes like a little tweak to figure out, maybe there was one massive issue you were having in the team that was throwing your mid late games, and once you figure it out, you look a lot better.
And also, to be fair, TL kind of had the same thing, right? Where they kind of did have this flub late game, right? They were really in control in game 1, lost that fight in the river, and then had this like kind of chickens with their head cut off moment at the Raptor pit, where they engage onto the other team without Quid there. They all die, they lose the game, and then game 2 they got blown out. So definitely you can make the argument that there are weaknesses that were shown by TL as well. But I do think, even just like pound for pound, like talent wise, this team is going to be really hard for them to beat. And even in the loss, like I said, I was very impressed by Morgan's laning. So I'm kind of excited to see how he's going to do as we get to see more of him. The other match that we obviously have to touch on is is FlyQuest versus DSG. That's the other 1-0. That's the other winners match. And one of these teams is going to be 2-0, right? Which is not something I think anyone would have predicted coming into it. And that puts you, in a very good position. So you're going to be guaranteed top 6 as far as I know. So you're already going to be into playoffs, which would be really, really cool for either of these teams. I'm sure they're happy to draw each other because they probably both think that they can, beat each other. But it's cool. It's like a lot of the young NA talent stories that people were talking about. Everyone's super hyped about Griffin and Cryogen and these young guys on FlyQuest. And obviously on the other side, we talked a lot about Sajed and how he was playing. And so I think it's going to be really cool to see how they match up and if they can kind of like snowball some of the success that they had from week 1, or if it is going to be like, oh yeah, FlyQuest looks so good, everyone's really hyping them, and then they just kind of like fall flat in the next week or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good one. I would definitely favor FlyQuest here, just based on how the teams play, but I don't think it's going to be a total stomp. I was actually, we didn't touch too much on Call Me from DSG, but I think he was extremely impressive, right? Like in games 2 and 3, he turbo gapped Darkwings, and I also think his mid lane champ pool is pretty good for the meta right now, especially with the way that it matches up against what Quad likes to play. Because I think Quad's playstyle is kind of similar to Darkwings, where they both prefer playing these mages, like the scaling up mage champs, and then he pulled out Aurora and Akali. I mean, I think Akali right now is just super gross. I think Akali it kind of makes it so if you're a team who can play Akali, the other team has to ban it, or you can't blind pick a mage. Because I think, like we saw Darkwings blind pick Victor, and then it got countered with Akali, and I think you almost just lose the game from that matchup alone. Like Victor can't do anything to Akali. Even if you build Rod, even if you go the upgraded Merc Shreds, you still just die in the side lane. I don't think there's anything you can do to not die to her as a mage. So maybe they'll just have to ban it, or get counterpicked.
Saint did it against Palafox on Orianna, I think, as well. Or was it Talia or something? What was it? Because I'm confused. That was game 1 of Lion, right? They played Akali?
Yeah, I believe it was Ori. Yeah, Akali versus Ori. Yeah. And I mean, I think that's just like, I don't know how you play mage into Akali. I think that's just a good luck matchup. So
good luck in esports.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, obviously we haven't seen a ton of games from these guys. Their champion pools haven't been pushed too deep, but I like the way Call Me was playing. He's very aggressive on these high kill threat champs, and I think that's great for mid lane right now. I think with getting the upgraded Stork boots and just having all this flat pin available, you can just one-shot everybody, and it is so hard to play against.
Yeah, this is the team that I would instantly move on my power rankings after week 1, because I had them 8.
Which one?
Huh?
Fly or DSG was the one you
DSG.
Okay, yeah.
Because we all had them
both.
We all had them 8th.
We did put it there, but literally as soon as we talked about it, I was like, actually, I would move them up 1.
Dig because of the subs.
Dig was my actual 8th because of the subs.
But this team.
How high would you move?
Yeah, this team, like, they already have mobility, so like up the standings, not the actual player, and so I think they look competitive actually.
How high?
You want a new ranking for them immediately?
Yeah. Well, who are you moving them above? That's just
I'm moving them above Sentinels and Dig.
Okay.
Both. I can move them.
Solid
Both.
you're giving them 1 up. Yeah, I can see that
1?
for sure.
That's 2.
Oh,
they were in 8th.
It's true. Well, I thought we were all agreed that Dig was the actual 8th.
Okay, so that one's fake.
Yes, that one's fake. So I'm only giving you 1. You're moving them up 1.
Okay.
They have some mobility to move up above Sentinels.
Which is I think impressive, because where DSG were for the majority of their time in the LCS or LTA,
the most 8th
is rock bottom.
Yeah. They were them and 8s. They were like this.
That's why I think this is this is just 1 weekend of sample size, and for me already feel confident being like,
yeah. Next weekend, watch yourself, teams. Kobe could put DSG above someone else. Next week.
Could put them back down. Maybe
Yeah.
they deserve to go back to rock bottom.
FlyQuest, when you were talking about that, I thought you were going to be talking about FlyQuest just because FlyQuest, I was watching, I was like, maybe they're like a top 3 team or something, because we had talked about it. I can't remember where I put them, 5th, 6th, whatever. But to me, like the high roll of this team was always like they're like a top 3 team. They could go to Worlds, because they have a lot of talent, but it's not proven, and you just don't know if it's going to work. But week 1, I was like, damn, they actually look really good right out the gate. I thought they were going to be one of the teams that needed the most time based on talking to their team. And even Masu said it in the draw show, he's like, yeah, you guys are better than us right now before their week 1 matchup when he was talking.
You think they're top 3?
No, I think it's possible. I think they could be. Yeah. I mean, I think them at their high roll could be a top 3 team. Yeah.
So they're only worse than Cloud9 and Team Liquid? Is that what you're having?
Yeah, on like a high roll. I don't know that they're gonna be able to like continue that level of form. Yeah. But yeah, I think that they have that level of talent, that level of potential. I mean, they have really young players that are really good mechanically, and their week 1 looked way better than I thought it was going to.
And it's super exciting. That's why it's like this competitiveness of the league, I think, is super exciting for week number 1. Because they're like, oh yeah, wow, like this team could rise way up. This team could rise way up. It feels like a lot of the teams could just could win.
Nobody's safe.
Win any given.
We could change your power ranking at any moment
based on your most recent performance.
Yeah.
You know,
and
what?
only that.
Be careful, Team Liquid. Watch yourself. You're gonna keep on falling down there.
Yeah.
Had you at number 1.
Yep. Yeah, you gotta watch out.
I already feel confident after week number 1. I'm moving you down to number 2.
It could be based off of something completely arbitrary as well. I told Seos he was on my fantasy team and that I said he was gonna pick Alistar. He said he would keep that in mind in Champ Select. Didn't keep that in mind.
He did keep it in mind, and he decided, screw Azale.
Yeah, which is fair. Which
That guy's
is fair. He's like, yeah, I'll think about it. I'll keep it in mind. And Fudge is like, wait a second, don't keep that in mind. I was like, no, let him be. Like, let him keep that Alistar in mind. I could use the points multiplier. Well, it's good to have LCS back. It's good to have Die back. It was definitely a really fun week 1. And we'll see where our overreactions, underreactions, and everything get us coming into next weekend, because that is going to wrap it up for us here on The Dive, driven by Kia. Be sure to subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube so you don't miss an episode of The Dive. Also, leave us a comment. Let us know. We included a highlight this week. What did you think about that? All right, LCS returns this Saturday, the 31st, 1 p.m. Pacific, C9. Take it online. We'll see you all there.